Hello, welcome to the Uncoupled Couple Podcast, which is about two baby mamas navigating a unique co-parenting journey.
Closely connected and sharing our experiences. I'm Nikki.
And I'm Elle, and welcome to the Uncoupled Couple.
The Uncoupled Couple. Yes, you're going to learn more about that eventually.
Hello, and welcome to the Uncoupled Couple, a podcast about two baby mamas navigating a unique co-parenting journey.
Closely connected and sharing our experiences. I'm one of your hosts, Nikki.
And I'm Elle, and we're the Uncoupled Couple. So, what's up, guys? Our topic for today is overcoming initial challenges. And this is our part two, actually, because we had a lot to say about this and a lot to talk about. So, yeah, that's our topic for today. We're going to talk about respecting the biological mother's role while carving your own space. So, an area where the stepmothers, well, actually, where we're both respecting each other's roles and boundaries, boundaries and things like this. So, that's what we're going to start off with. So,
well, before that, if this is your first time here, welcome. And we're so happy that you decided to tune in. Always, we want to just kind of give a little quick what we're about and, our goal. Our goal here is to hopefully help our community with some of the issues that we feel people are struggling with. Again, we'll say it 100 times. We are by no way any professionals or anything of that nature. We're just sharing our experience and what we've learned through co-parenting for almost 20 years. Again, if this is your first time here, welcome. So just a little quick about us, if you haven't met us. I'm Nikki, this is Elle, and this is my baby mama. They're like, your baby mama, how? Yes. So I was previously married to her baby daddy, and through that unique journey of us raising our kids together, we became incredibly close. We became friends, sisters, family, and we have over this past, like I said, almost 20 years, just had each other's back. So again, the blended family is a lot more common today than it has ever been. And we just see some of the things that folks are struggling with. And one thing that we've always heard over the years, they're like, how y'all get along so well? How y'all do it, this and that. So we've been asked multiple times to share. And this is the time. So now we've decided to share. We sat down and here we are. But yeah, so
we decided to do a podcast, especially with one of her good friends, Sarah, who, I guess a few times told her that this is something we should do. It initially started off, James was talking about writing a book, and our son's father, James, has talked about doing a book, and he came up with the title, The Uncoupled Couple, meaning we're still a couple. We're still couples and we're still together because of the kids. And the thing that makes it unique is that James is not the biological father of her children, James and Elijah, but he raised them as his own. They're his, and a lot of times that's what some families do. That's what some families do and some families don't. And her and James are now divorced. And so the fact that we're all still tight and the fact that Nikki and I are still so close, because she could have gone her way and I could have gone mine, but the boys are like brothers.
They're not like brothers. They're brothers. Right.
Because I asked Isaiah, do you ever feel like an only child? He said, no, I never felt like an only child because he was not an only child. Right. So from the age of like 5 on up. So I think that's what makes this,
Well, no, actually, since he was born, because he's your only child, but he's never been an only child. James has older children. So
thank you. Well, only child in the household. So no, he's never been an only child.
Right. So it's so many different, as you can see, dynamics and layers and things like that. So with all those twists and turns, it can become difficult to navigate. It can be overwhelming and just so many different things. So we're just hoping that we can offer some things that'll help. Again, today we're going to be talking about overcoming initial tensions and challenges, part 2. We did our episode 2 weeks ago. We told you guys it was probably going to end up being a 2-part because it's a lot to unpack. And we want to help you, never shortchange or shortcut anything. And we always, like we said, we promise to give it to you real, raw, the real nitty gritty, as they say.
So I'd like to go in because we talking about carving our own space, allowing them to carve their space. One thing with us, and when I think about space, well, a couple of things. When I think about space of parenting, parenting styles, because Nikki and I really didn't have we didn't have a lot of problems, but we still realized the problems that we could have had.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to parenting styles, we really didn't have a big thing about that because I'm old school. I'm like, hey, you got my child, he clown and whoop that butt.
Absolutely.
I would tell the daycare teacher that I can't do that. I'm like, yes, you can.
Right.
But Nikki's a little more stern than I am. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not as hard. I did whoop a little bit. I just didn't a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki's just a little sterner, more sterner than I am. But when it comes to boundaries, I personally didn't feel that boundaries were crossed or anything because we discussed things in the past. We mentioned just one thing that happened, and she was right, about me letting Isaiah taking donuts for breakfast and not bringing any for the boys. That's the only thing that I can really think of.
Yeah. Really.
Where did you feel that you may have had to set boundaries or things like that?
I never felt that actually. I mean, it was just I am a proponent of communications. Like it doesn't matter in what type of relationship you're in, communication is always key. When things are outlined and upfront and it you just know what it is. We always had awesome communication, expectations. Like, I mean, we just been through so many things, cars breaking down, loss of jobs, things of that, and we navigated and we pivoted and be like, hey, this is going on. So instead of me, you'd be like, hey, my car down. Instead of me getting Isaiah this weekend, I need him to stay the weekend. No problem. It wasn't like, obviously emergencies happen, but I think just that communication, being considerate of somebody's time. Don't tell me at 2 p.m. on a Friday you can't pick the kids up from school when they get out at 3. What am I supposed to do with that?
Right.
And those are the type of things that we never had to deal with. Consistency. I never had to worry about if you said you were going to do something or be somewhere that you were not. And that's a thing that I think a lot of people, again, we talked about that, about, kids and being dependable, right?
And that's where that respect for each other came in.
Absolutely. So, you respected my time, I respected yours. Having those conversations because we didn't have the same parenting style, but it wasn't too far off.
No.
But if it was a situation in which we had a difference of opinion, I would have respected that. Case in point, my husband that I'm married to now, his ex is not very big on spankings. They would rather talk to bond versus spankings. And I respect that 100%. If he does need to be spanked and I feel like it's something that really crossed the line, I'll tell Jared and let him do that. You know what I'm saying? Because her and I, we are still in the beginning stages of our relationship. And, you and I, we hit it off instantly. Mm-hmm. She's taken a little more time to warm up to me. And I think it's mainly because she's still working through feelings, things of that nature from the relationship and what happened between her and Jared. And before I'm a mom, I'm a woman first.
I was just going to say that when we talk about boundaries and respect, we need to put ourselves in that place to and say, okay, well, Bingo. I understand. I get it. I'm going to give her time while she needs to work through it. So I need to be more open and more caring and compassionate about what she's going through. Like you said, for me, it was easier because I had no feelings involved. But we need to think, well, you could be in that situation and still trying to work through some things because I've never been married, but I believe divorce for most people can be pretty hard.
Absolutely.
I would think,
It was not easy, and I had to consider the kids and everything. That was a lot. So, and that's a whole nother story for another day. But again, at the end of the day, she didn't sign up to be a baby mama. Let's be clear. Vaughn is her only child. Her and Jerry were together several years. I'm certain she saw things going differently. She expected that they would marry and everything like that. And that's not what happened. And now there's a new person that comes into the picture that's going to be a part of her and her son's life, right? So things like I said, we've gone to Chicago for Vaughn's birthday last year, and we're vacationing this year to Florida. We're going to Disney World, so um, we are working through our relationship. But I want to get to a place where, like, when we have barbecues and things like that, she can be there. We can just all be together because one thing I always loved about our dynamic is like we didn't have to like split holidays, you know, versus oh you got to go here then and go there. If we just all together on the 4th of July, it's just better for the kid, right? His whole family's there. His mind is not like oh well I'm going with mom now, dad. It's never having to make the child choose per se.
And if there was a day he chose to go at Nikki's and not be in my family, that was fine. And my family say, "Where's Ike?" Oh, he with his mom, and they go, "Oh, okay." You know how Nikki doing? So a lot of times, like I said, we didn't run into those issues. Right. And sometimes, like you said, we would be together.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that just makes it easier. And when the child does choose to go, say, "Hey, I want to go with my mom," instead of us, I never felt any type of way or this or that. Because sometimes, depending on what Elle was doing, Jay and Elijah wanted to go too. Because sometimes, like, everybody has to take time for this. Sometimes I didn't feel like doing all the fireworks and this, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And Elle was like, "Well, my uncle
and Gerald did all the fireworks. They knew you wouldn't Uncle even have to buy fireworks.
She would be at all the boys gonna have so yeah. And I could get a break, so it's a give and take, and it's an entire family. But again, when you are dealing with, and again, we go back to at the beginning saying like, if you're already in a situation, I mean, these are just the things that are required to navigate it. If you're not already in a co-parenting situation and you're dating someone or considering dating someone that does already have a child, these are the things that you need to think about. These are the things y'all need to talk about because the person that's in the relationship and they already co-parent with somebody else, whether it's good, bad, or whatever, when you come into the picture, now we are dealing with those things. And sometimes a lot of people on both sides are like, well, I didn't have a child with this person, so I don't have to deal with this person. And that is so far from the truth. Anybody that's going to be around your child and in your child's life, they are part of this equation.
Absolutely.
And so both sides have to have their own space, their own lane where they operate, but it has to be respectful of the children and of the biological parents. And I mean, it's just that, if I'm in a space with a bonus child, I have to respect mom's boundaries, because this is her child. And again, I am a mom, so I get that. And even if you're not a mom and you're dating somebody that has kids, you have to just understand that. Like this is somebody's child, right? And that's, in and of itself, one of the most important relationships that a person may have. And they want to make sure, first and foremost, they want to make sure that their kid is safe and loved. And I'm certain that that's something that you would want. Uh-oh. We're having a little technical difficulties. I can't see Elle. Okay, I'm certain she'll be back in just a second. And respecting the other parent about Elle, when she and I, because Isaiah is her only child, I definitely expected her to be much more because a lot of times, when and Elle was not married, to her and James were never married, but she may have gotten married, but she wasn't married. And Isaiah was her only child. So a lot of times women in those situations, they everything. I'm like, oh Lord, I'm like, now I'm gone.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's You're getting the raw and the real.
So, so I expected her to be much more protective over Isaiah than she was because, a lot of times women, and we see it a lot of times, unfortunately, that sometimes women, especially young women, when they have sons, they put them up on a pedestal and they are like treating their sons like their man, and it's like that's their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when, and especially another woman comes into the picture, they could feel some type of way about that. So, all right. So we got our technical difficulties cleared up. Elle is back. Hey.
Yes.
But yeah, protectiveness over the child. That was something that I felt that may come about. And I feel like just kind of a little tidbit of that with the whole, you wanted to wash his clothes. When Isaiah needed to come live with us, and I think that kind of goes to why I responded the way that I did. And you were just like, I'm gonna wash his clothes, and I was just like, okay, because I expected that. I expected way more than that, and I was like, that's what she needs. That's okay.
I needed that to feel that I still had a part in his upbringing, even though I did. Because I was in my feelings and not a negative way, nothing against her, but I felt horrible because I didn't have my child with me, and it's always had been him and I. So that was, again, may hear us talk about it again. That was the most difficult part for me when he moved with Nikki and them, because I was out of work and I was staying with my grandmother, sleeping on her couch. And Isaiah would sleep on the futon on the weekends. You know how we do in our households. We make it work,
Right.
And Nikki said, well, he can come and transfer to school over here because this is in the West End. West Side. And I did not. I was like, he's not walking by himself.
Right.
The area, I was like, no, it was worse than the North Side where I grew up at. Nothing against the West End, but
so he didn't have to be by himself. He had his brothers and everything like that. And we, like you said, we make it work. And at our house, he had his own bed.
He didn't miss anything.
Right. So, instead of him having to be on
me. No.
He missed you. But when we're going through those things, that was one of the things I tried to make sure, like, even when we were struggling or having different things, that's something that I always try to not per se shelter the kids from, but like, it's not kids' job to worry about bills and jobs.
Absolutely.
All they need to do is go to school. So when we had our little issues or bumps in the road, like, when that's what family is for. When one of us is suffering, the other one pull the slack, and we make up the difference, and we try to make sure that the kids are okay, and you make sure that they're being taken care of. So again, if you ain't got your big boy underwear, your big girl underwear, this ain't the type of situation for you. Because again, you have to sometimes step outside of yourself and show compassion and love to somebody, again, that may not be like that cool with. Because again, me and Elle, our relationship is really cool, but James had other baby mamas that wasn't too cool. We were just cordial. But I still respected them and showed them the same grace.
Absolutely.
Because I decided to marry this man. And when I accepted him, I accepted all his children, and all his children's mothers, and so on and so forth. So however and however that came and however that was coming, I had to do what I needed to do. You don't have or get licensed to be nasty or ugly because somebody else is. At the end of the day, it's the old saying, two wrongs don't make a right. And you, by choosing to be with that man or that woman, you are saying, I'm choosing to love and respect your child. And by loving and respecting that child, that means you have to, at minimum, respect that child's other parent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one big thing with me, next topic is avoiding negative talk about each other in front of the child.
Absolutely.
Some of us have it so bad, talking bad in front of your kids. I could say, since we're keeping it raw, the first time Isaiah ever heard me say anything negative about his father, he was 16. Isaiah happened to be coming home. I didn't know he was there, so he overheard the conversation. And I mean, I'm going in on James. This has been a couple of times when Isaiah was a baby, I would go in, but you can't talk negative about kids to the other parent to the children. Because one thing I'm gonna say this, and this is from life, my personal take on it, and also working in child support for 13 years. Believe it or not, when the child, I cannot talk today. When the child gets older, they're going to start asking questions, and they say, well, I'm going to find out for my own. I can talk to my dad or my mom on my own. They're going to learn the truth. But it's just not a good look. Even though the mom or the daddy may be a deadbeat, no good, the child will figure that out on their own. So while I want to hear your take, and there's something I want to bring back to that about the effects of negatively.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The child will figure it out on their own. It is not your job to belittle and berate and do all of that, because my youngest son, as she mentioned, James and I don't have any biological children, and I was married before James. So my first ex-husband, our son, when he wasn't, and he and I are close in age, and we were young. We got married at 19 and 20, so we were young, and we had Elijah more or less immediately after. So again, still kids ourselves. He wasn't showing up like he needed to back then, and I would have and could have talked. I wouldn't have, because I didn't. I could have talked greasy about him and be like this, that, and the other. And he would say, "Oh, I'm gonna come get you." He was telling Elijah, "I'm gonna come get you next week," and this and that. And then he didn't show, and then it would end up being a month. But again, when Elijah was a little bitty 2, 3, little kids don't know a week, a month. They don't know. They don't have a concept of time. They don't have a calendar. They're not looking like, oh, today's the 3rd. My dad's supposed to come get me. So things like that, those inconsistencies, I told him, hey, you need to get your stuff together, because Elijah's very smart. And he's going to start picking up and understanding on his own that you're not doing what you need to do. Because I am never going to block you from seeing your son, because one, sons need their dads, and not just sons, kids need their parents. Everything was designed perfectly as it should. Girls need their moms just as much as they need their dads, and boys need their dads just as much as their mom. Kids need both parents in their life. And I was like, I'm never going to block you from seeing your child, but he is going to catch on that you're not doing what you need to do. Because the only thing talking negatively or blocking your child from seeing the other parent is going to do is going to ultimately have your child resenting you. Because when they find out, the first thing they're going to do when they're able to reconnect or talk to their parent, the first thing they're going to ask is, where were you? Why weren't you there? Why we didn't have a relationship? And if they can honestly say to that, because people lie, but if they can honestly say to that child, because your mom or dad blocked me, their anger now is to you.
Why did you keep me from my dad?
Correct. Because you had an issue, that ain't got nothing to do with me. Most parents that are not in their child's life is because of the other parent. I've never seen a parent be like, oh, I'm not in my child's life because, and I mean, it could be some, but I've never seen anybody. Everybody that I know, all my guy friends, unfortunately, it's more the guys that are cut out more times than not. I do know some single dads, but majority of the time it's single moms, and majority of the women that I know that keep they baby daddies out of their life is because they bitter.
They're holding him as a pawn. It's just not cool.
When they cool, the baby's daddy can see the baby, but when we ain't cool,
or if the dad start dating someone else again, we're talking about this blended family thing. You don't take my child around that woman. Because I remember James and I had an agreement. He was like, when you start dating someone, if it's serious and you ready for Isaiah to be around them, I want to meet them. And it should be like that. If you're meeting a woman, I should meet her, and vice versa. So that's another topic within itself. But again, in the end, it's all about the kids. I just told when James and I were together and I was breaking up, I said, my only concern, I need you to be in your son's life. If you don't see your son, then I'm going to have a big problem with that. Because my dad was there. My mom and dad divorced when I was four, and my mom passed, and my grandmother and my aunts raised me. And my dad was always around. But even then, I didn't see a lot of women coming around, but I'm sure my grandmother and my aunt probably was on him. They checked him about that.
Oh, for sure.
And then my dad was young. My mom was 16 and my dad was 19. So
really?
They were, in the 60s, you had to get married.
Right, I got you. Yeah. I didn't know they had to be that young.
Right, yeah. Yeah. So my dad he was young, like you are. So it's and my dad was always there. I'll say, like, if I had any musical recital, he was there unless he was out of town working. He was at everything. He would pile us in the car and take us on trips. We had that cold chicken and chips, how we used to do back in the day. My dad was always there, and it makes such a big difference. Absolutely. Like I said, we as adults, even if we talk about our parents, I never hear anybody saying, my mama bought this, my daddy bought this. They never talk about what they bought. They talk about the times. I remember when my dad did this. It's not about my daddy. I've never, ever heard grown folks talk about.
And I love that you said that because I don't know if you saw the clip, and it's kind of going off topic, but we'll circle back. Did you see the little response that Dr. Umar gave his daughter? Okay, we have to talk about another episode, but want to look at it. Basically, his daughter, she's 22. She got online talking about, my dad has never been there. I want to have a relationship with my half sister. This and that. And Dr. Umar, he made a video response to her video, basically saying that he had been paying child support since before she was born, and this and that, and that his phone number ain't never changed, and it's been the same for 20 years. And, if you wanted to find me, you could find me, and this and that. And, and a lot of people were in the comments like, she said she reached out and she ain't heard you. And a lot of people were really focused in on, he talking about paying child support. And everybody like, child support is not a relationship. And that is so true. Like you said, nobody's talking about what you spent. And then child support is for like food, clothes, things. So she, that child, she never saw that anyway. A child, nobody's cutting a check to a 7-year-old. So that money went to her mom anyway for her needs. That ain't got nothing to do with anything. And let's say, for instance, the check was cut to her. That doesn't replace a relationship.
As a child, you're not thinking about the check. You're thinking about, I wish my dad was here because their dads are here. Mine is not.
They don't care nothing about no money. They want you to see them up there with them little costumes twirling around on the stage, exactly, doing whatever. Isaiah and Jay, when they were playing for the North County Mustangs, ain't caught a ball, ain't won nothing. We was out there every game with our little orange on, supporting them Rudy Poots, because baby, we love our children.
And Isaiah running on his tippy toes.
I love them, but they was terrible. Ain't win a game, but they remember us being at every game. That's what's important.
So that it is. So
you got to show up for your kids.
I was online looking around and I came across something that's talking about the harmful impact of talking bad about your child. So it damages the parent-child relationship.
Talking bad about the child or about the
talking bad about the parent.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So we talked about that. It damages the relationship. So if with my dad, if he was never around, I'm going to feel some kind of way. Or in the end, even if I'm seeing my dad and mom was always talking bad about my dad, I'm like, you always talking bad about my dad. So that's one thing. It can cause a child to feel isolated and alone. They said, when children hear their mom or dad being talked about unfavorably, they might think that they are the only ones with these feelings. So again, it can lead to a child to have to choose sides. And that's stressful. Yeah. You got an 8-year-old who has to, wonder, well, I love my mom and dad. And if they're both arguing, that's
trying to force them to make a choice. And that's too much to be putting on a child anyway.
too much. That's enough for an adult.
Mm-hmm.
It can make the child reluctant to seek help from others. They say, well, I want to go to my grandmother and talk about this, but then my mom or dad, one of them or both may be mad. Emotional turmoil, of course. Imagine as a child, you literally stuck in the middle, and if you imagine if you physically seeing your parents fight, how detrimental that can be. It can lead to behavioral problems.
Yeah.
It can affect the child's relationship with other family members, especially if they're taught, if the other family members especially come in and they honing in and agreeing with the mom, and then they're hearing it from all different places, and they're saying, I love my dad, but they're talking bad about my dad or my mom.
What about self-esteem issues?
Self-esteem issues.
Mm-hmm.
Trust issues. If you got all these grown folks talking bad about both parents, you're not going to trust anyone. You may end up talking to your little cousins about it or something, but not those adults.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that can happen that can affect the child hearing their parents being badmouthed.
Absolutely. We have to make sure we create a safe space for our children to be able to come to for whatever, because I'm just thinking about, you saying the child not trusting. What if something is going on that's outside of you, right? What if they are being targeted by, unfortunately, a sexual predator, somebody that's not you or mom or dad, but if I don't feel comfortable talking to you, having a conversation with you, period, I'm not going to come to you about anything. It could be a teacher. It could be anything. Something's going on. And I think that that's very important, because I remember us, and we talked about this, creating a safe space and talking to our kids and things about that, making sure that our kids knew that they could come to us for anything, that we loved them, we supported them, and if anything ever made them feel, unsafe or uncomfortable, come to us, talk to us, let us know. And I would always encourage, hey, if you don't feel comfortable talking to me about something, talk to Mama Yanni about it. Or if you feel more comfortable, and then with boys, sometimes with boys and their bodies, they feel more comfortable talking to their dad. And that's why both parents are important. Because I know a lot of single moms out there raising boys, and they doing it and this and that. But let's be clear, you don't have the same body parts that a man has. So when he's going through certain feelings and stuff, he needs to talk to his dad. And if his dad is not around, maybe his dad is even deceased, locked up, whatever the case may be, get you some good men in your life that can serve as role models. Because even though they had their dad, I put the boys in a mentorship program with the Omega Psi Phi chapter in Illinois, where we live, New Kai. Brothers, good brothers, still good friends of mine to this day. And they took them on college tours. And my youngest son, he got to sharpen his chess skills with them. And they just took them on lots of different outings. They had different experiences.
They did a lot of things.
Absolutely.
So they can have conversations with them.
Yes.
I'm a woman. I cannot tell you how to be a man. I definitely don't know what it means to be a Black man.
That boy.
I can't have that conversation. And even if I could, I'm not going to have the same effect because I'm not a male.
Or the same perspective.
Yeah. Right. And if I'm a woman, if I'm a male raising a young lady, I need a woman around to say, hey, she's having a monthly. Man can't tell you nothing about that. Some woman is going to have to walk her through it. And a man probably could say, this is how you do this.
Right,
this is how you use that. But it's still going to come, it's going to help for her to talk to a woman, because a man can't talk to you about cramps.
Right.
A man can't talk to you about having a baby.
And just in general, like for myself personally, I had to learn all of this, on the backside. My mom and dad were married until my mother passed. 44 years. Like, I'm not even 44. They were married before I was born. So my entire life. So I never, as a child, was in a blended family. But like I say, my dad been there the whole time. But when my body started changing, I want to talk to my mom. I didn't feel comfortable talking to my dad because that's a lot,
That's a lot.
and you feeling these feelings and things are happening with your body. You just feel more comfortable, as a young lady talking to a woman, so even with that, I wanted to have a female doctor when my primary doctor growing up was a guy. I never cared too much about it, but when it came to my feminine things, I preferred to talk to a woman about those things because it just felt awkward, to be talking about to a guy about those things. So yeah, it is very much so orchestrated that way that we need both sides. Um, so absolutely. So yeah, we have to make sure that we are making sure that the kids are protected and safe and things like that. Our other topic, kind of going to, you know, the negative talk. It kind of you kind of spoke to it. It said we have a point of recognizing the harm of competing for the child's loyalty because that negative talk, unfortunately, could be one parent's their motivation behind that could be to try to get the child to be loyal to them, be on their side, um, spy on the other parent, things of that nature. I know a lot of times, unfortunately, over the years, like I said, I've been a mom since I was 18 years old. So, I was a young mother and I knew other young mothers. And let me be clear, it ain't just young mamas doing silly stuff.
Oh, definitely.
But as a young mom, I saw a lot of young moms doing silly stuff. Especially a lot of times it seems like when we separate after we have a kid, it seems like the guys usually get somebody new in their life first. And that's probably due to the fact that mom is the custodial, mom isn't able to go out as much, mom isn't able to meet people as much because she's got to be home being the primary custodial parent. So while mom is at home tending to the kids, dad out, he kicking it with his boys, he at the club, he getting numbers and this and that. So it ended up, a lot of times again, I'm not, again, I will say this repeatedly, I'm not biased towards the man woman, just in my experience and what I see more of is more single moms being the custodial parent versus the dad.
And that's just
so
normally the case.
Like I said, being young, and again, it ain't only young women doing silly stuff. I had a lot of friends, sad, but you would have their child spying on the dad, asking them to repeat back what they was talking about over there. Did she stay tonight? Did she do this?
Don't put your kids in the middle of grown folks' business.
Yeah.
I was just gonna mention that next.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But I had some friends when I was younger that did that, and I was just like, and I'm a very opinionated person, and I was like, that's not cool, that's not that. But I've never seen this not happen in a situation where she didn't still want to be with the guy. I feel that the biggest thing is getting our emotions in check because that is again, it could be other factors, but that has always been the motivating factor that I've seen. The woman still want to be with the guy, so she trying to sabotage or be nosy or see what's up with the other woman or this or that. The only concern, and I'm speaking as a woman, that you should have about the other woman is she nice to you? Is she kind to you? Exactly. I don't care about nothing about what.
Yes, you're not my biological child, but when you're with me, you mine. Let's go. Yeah, that's how I think.
Absolutely.
And you should have that attitude. But one thing I know, the upside, I do notice when some couples get together and if they break up, they're still so close to their child, even though they're no longer with their father or mother.
Oh, I love that you said that. I love that you said that. The first guy that I dated after my divorce from James, he couldn't get that. He could not grasp that concept. And we did not work out. And it was a couple things, but that was one of the things. He was like, but that's your ex-husband. Y'all all tight and this and that. And I'm like, that's my kid's dad. And then he was like, but that ain't their real dad. And I'm like, oh, he's their real dad. Mm-hmm. Because James actually legally adopted Jay. because Jay's dad was biological father had never been in his life, and that's not a fault to him, and that's we'll talk more about that. But James is Jay's dad, um, and not even adopted. He is his by every facet of the law. He is his legal dad. He actually we amended Jay's birth certificate, so when Jay goes to get his birth certificate, it says mother Andrea Calloway, father James Dickerson. So he put his name on Jay's birth certificate. So he's not his adoptive dad. He is his father, straight like when he puts down father, he puts James Dickerson, period, because that's what's on there. And I don't know many men that would do that. James has his faults, but James has been a great dad in so many ways. And again, none of us are free of fault, and none of us are perfect. But one thing I will say about James, that man, he got a heart as big as not even Texas. I'll say the United States of America. James has a huge heart. He always has the best intentions. Things may not work out the way that he wants them to, but he always has the best intentions. And you can say a lot of things, but can't nobody say he don't love his kids. Mm-hmm. He loved them with his whole heart. And that's a period, not a comma, not if, ands, or buts about it. He loves his children unconditionally.
So that's great if you've built a relationship with someone and the parents, the couples are not still together. And even if this was a boyfriend and he had been around so long, but if he's grown and I have a friend no longer with the lady he dated. He said her kids still calling me all the time. I had another friend, the daughter, he was around her when she was very young, and she had an issue. She called him before she called the mom. He said, but I got to talk to your mom about this. This is something I need to just tell her. I'm letting you know. But she went to him. She was more comfortable with going to him before going to her mom with this particular situation. Yeah. She's probably about Isaiah's some age.
Right.
And he said, she called me, and she told half the story anyway, what was going on. But yeah, it's good. She's comfortable enough to go to him. And she's kind of like his dad.
And that's another thing about being able to have communication. Because kids be lying and telling half stories.
And he said, I've been on this little girl since she was 7 years old. I knew she was giving me half the story.
And even if he didn't know, you got to be able to get back with that other parent. Kind of like when Jay used to be trying to, what's going to happen when I call your mama? Oh, well, yeah. So it's like, we're going to talk, and you got to have that communication, because if a child, and that's, again, if you and the other parent don't have a good relationship, the kids ain't stupid. Y'all kids is way smarter than we be trying to give them credit for. If they feel that they can, if they know y'all not talking, if they know y'all beefing, they finna play two against the middle. Kids are just that way. We are all made. When we come out the womb, the first thing we do is cry. Self-preservation. That's what we are. So the first thing a kid gonna do is like, oh, let me see how I can manipulate this situation to get something from me. From day one. These kids to be out here talking about some, oh, I got a field trip. It's $30. Get it from mama, then turn around, daddy, I got a field trip. It's $30. If y'all not talking, oh, I got $30 for the field trip, and I got $30 to go to the candy store or whatever, But, and again, not trying to steal per se or be malicious.
Just being a kid.
Kids is broke, and they ain't got no job, and they want some money, and they want to have money for little stuff, or they go to the mall and they want to have some little fun money. Kids will manipulate a situation if they have a situation that they can manipulate. And again, that's a light, soft-ish instance in where a kid can manipulate. But if they're not telling the same story to the parents, or y'all not having conversation, you don't know what's going on. Or if you got the custodial parent over here not communicating with the non-custodial parent, and the kid over here talking, oh, I'm doing so great in school. I got all A's, and they over there getting D's. But you're not communicating that. It's just so many different things that while we have to put ourselves aside and make sure that we're having those conversations and things like that.
Right. We all knew what all the boys were getting in class and how they were doing in class. An issue with Jay, I was so mad at him. I was like, you know how hard your mama worked for this? I mean, I was livid, and yeah. So with them, they're going to get it from both ends.
Absolutely.
You got it coming three ways. Yeah.
Yeah, but kind of going back to that, he thought me and James was buddy because unfortunately a lot of times in our community they feel like if you and your ex get along, y'all must be still messing around.
Girl, you know how I dealt with that for years with James. People would say, y'all getting married. I was like, no. Me and Reba, she made a bet. I just said, and I had wrote it down, and she said, if you all are married by this time, yada yada. And me and James and I have been together for years. But we got along so well. She said, if you all are married, you owe me $100 or something. And it was years later. I said, remember that bet we made? One of my managers, when I was at Job Corps, because James came up to Job Corps to speak. And she realized how well we got along. She said, girl, you're going to marry that man. I was like, no, I'm not. So because we get along so well. And I remember I'm going to backtrack real quick. It was Thanksgiving. We were at you all's house in Belleville. Yeah, a house full of folks.
Okay.
And I was dating a guy. I said, well, come on over with me. We going over to Belleville. We going to have a good time. And he had a problem with that because it was James. I said, but we're going to him and his wife's house.
Right.
I'm not with him. I said, everybody's going to be there. And he wasn't no good anyway. Anyway, I used Tyson too Tyson. I told you how Tyson played me too. Because when I had Tyson, Tyson was going to park a lot. So I said, okay, Tyson, I'm going to have you to meet old boy. And I know if he ain't no good, you're going to let me know.
First of all, I don't know why you was on that because Tyson is friendly Bob anyway.
Wagging his tail. He like, what's up, boy? And I was like, you sell out. But he had a problem with me hanging out with James on Thanksgiving. I'm like, but I'm going to he's married. But
and I'll say this, and that just kind of brought me to a thought. And again, we're not professionals, but I had the same experience. You had the same experience with guys that ended up not. And I would be willing to say that's a red flag. If you are dating someone and they have a problem with you having a positive relationship with the parent of your other child, run.
I want you to have a positive relationship.
Absolutely. My husband now, again, we're in the beginning stages. Me and him, when I had known him years prior. But when he and I ran into each other, him and his mother of his youngest son, they had only been broke up about 4 months. So it was fresh. It was raw. So, that was the end of 2021 and it's the beginning of 25. So it's been a few years now. Like I said, things are smoothed out, but the relationship is still building and growing and things of that nature. But on the beginning, it was very raw. And she was very, hurt and it was still fresh and new and things of that nature. So I encouraged a positive relationship. You know how it is when you first break, it was some contention there, some back and forth and, little pettiness on certain things. And, if you're supposed to be 5 o'clock, it better not be 5:04, just little stuff. And I was just like, grace. I was constantly telling you have to give her grace. You have to understand, she didn't sign up to be nobody's baby mama. She didn't sign up to this or that or the other. She expected y'all to be together and be raising y'all child together. She didn't expect to be in this situation. Understand that. Give her grace. Be patient. Be kind. This is not going to do anything but help you all in the long run. Because my husband had never been in that situation. He never navigated it, but I had. So that was a space where I was like, oh, let me help him. Let me encourage him in that because he was married before, but him and his wife, they raised their children when they were married 17 years. So when they divorced, their children were almost grown, right? So they weren't little kids when their dad, left the house. When Jared separated from his ex, Vaughn was 2 going on 3. So that was another thing. Vaughn was not a hand baby. He was a little older. So he was like, I want my dad. Those are the things that they had to navigate. I want my dad here. Why dad not here? Why dad's not here tonight? Because he was born into them being in a house together and everything like that. So he's like, where's my dad? And they had to, explain to him, dad lives here now and mom lives here. So you'll have two houses. So now that he's 6 going on 7, he understands, that I'm wife and over here and dad, we live here together and you have your home here and then you have your home with mom. Mom and dad are not together, but mom and dad both love you and things of that nature.
Can I ask you this?
Absolutely.
How, Vaughn, right? That's the baby. How has he navigated all, you all being together?
Vaughn, and that's the one thing I think is great about blending a family when kids are younger. Because kids, unless you have another parent poisoning that child, kids are sweet and innocent. That's how they come into this world. Nobody's born evil or racist or sexist or you know what I'm saying. Kids are a blank slate when they come in. And so one thing about what I know for a fact, his mom, even if she has issues with Jared about this, that, the other, she's not saying those things to Vaughn. So that's something that I don't have to worry about, and it's not an issue. She's not saying anything negative to Vaughn about me or Jared. Vaughn is very sweet and loving. He's just a happy kid. So, and he does little crap that little kids do, right? But other than that, there's no issues or things like that. So, just being navigating and building and working on my relationship with him. So that's been a bit of a challenge for me, to be honest, because I'm so far removed from that. When Isaiah and Jay are 4 months apart, right? And they're both boys, right? And I got Elijah too, of course, but just speaking on Elijah and on Isaiah, and then Jamie is just 4 years older than them. So they were all the same age at the same time. So basically I was on that at that time, right? So going to the zoo and I was already doing those things because they all around the same age. My baby is 21. I'm so far removed from kid stuff. So it has been a challenge for me going back in time. So to speak.
Things, and how old is mine?
6.
So doing things that a 6-year-old wants to do.
Correct. And I'm not hip. So
is he hipping you? Did I just say that?
Yeah, I'm getting hip. And the kids don't even say hip no more. Right. I don't even care. But like I said, I'm getting hip now because back in the day, the boys was on wrestling was their thing. Jay loved Bob the Builder. They was all on Spider-Man. It was just a lot of stuff. So they have new cartoons and characters and all types of things that wasn't around when our boys were younger. So like one thing that Vaughn loves is Paw Patrol. Baby, I ain't know.
LA.
Baby, see, you got little guy, baby. Baby, I don't know about these people. So that's what I'm talking about. I had to get hip. So now I know about Paw Patrol. And he is a Bluey fanatic. So do you know who Bluey is, Elle?
Bluey's not the dog, is it?
Yes, Bluey is an Australian cat or dog.
Okay. Is this the other? No, I'm thinking about Blue's Clues. Blue's Clues is gone. Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay, so but it's kind of okay. So Bluey is a little cartoon dog, still a cartoon dog. Bluey is blue. So I just initially thought Bluey was a boy. Bluey is a girl. So if anybody don't know, Bluey is a girl.
So if I was like, no, Bluey's a girl.
Oh yeah, he was highly offended. Oh. I was like, he was like, Bluey is a girl. I was like, oh. And then Bluey's sister, Bingo, is blue. It's brown. Okay. So normally with kids, you
got a blue dog.
I'm gonna sound old now. All this newfangled stuff. Everything is what's the word androgynous? What like
I don't know why I felt that was going there.
let me not say that. That might not be the right word. Everything is neutral. They keep everything so gender fluid. So I'm used to, if it's a girl, it will be pink, right? If it's a boy, it would be blue, right? So even like when I was shopped for like my nieces, my favorite color is red. Always has been red. But when I would try to find girl clothes that are red, you wouldn't find that. You would only find pastel pinks. Yes, you don't find, and even now still looking, you don't find a lot of little girl clothes in red. The only thing, the most I would see red, it would be something with Minnie Mouse or Mickey Mouse because that's their color. But most girl clothes would not come in red. Everything for little girls would be pink and purple. So just conditioning, training, societal training and conditioning. When I saw a little brown and a little blue dog, I just thought they were boys. But Bluey and their names, Bluey and Bingo, don't go one way or the other. Right. So I thought they were boy dogs, but they are two girl dogs. Bluey and Bingo are both girls. And their dad works from home. So he's their primary caretaker. Okay. And their mom goes out for work. So again, I've watched episodes with him.
I need to catch up on some of these cartoons.
Right. Exactly. So learning those things, again, and that's another thing. When you have a child in your life that you love and you are going to spend time with them, you have to learn about what they like, what their interests are, and things of that nature. Because like all my kids, that are not my body, well, not all of them, but some of my kids, because some of them just call me mama, but my other children that are not my biologically, if they don't call me mama, they call me Mama Nikki. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I would like for Vaughn to call me as well. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to force that on him. Right. But I want him to be comfortable to call me that. And the only way for him to feel comfortable is for us to have that relationship. So that takes an intentional effort from me to make sure that he knows that I am someone that loves him and respects him, and that I'm providing a safe space for him.
You know what? If he was around the boys more and he's heard them saying Mama Nikki, like Isaiah, he would get to the point where he would be, okay, it's cool. True. They're all saying Mama Yicky or Mama Yanni.
But but that's the thing. Everybody grown and working, and they so far removed. Everybody doing their own thing, you know what I'm saying? So again, like I say, with everybody lumped up, it was easier. We was already doing those types of things. I haven't done kid stuff in a long time. Yeah. So again, I'm being very intentional about that.
Maybe you need a grandbaby.
So this gonna be our ending note. So a couple episodes back, so a couple months ago, I think it was our first, maybe. I think it might have been our first, maybe our second. I don't know. It was some episodes back. Y'all already heard it. The point is, we were talking about, we ain't never going, we don't know when we're going to have some grandbabies. So, news update. We got a grandbaby on the way. So, Miss Kendall is having a baby.
So we found out maybe a week after we said that.
Yep, about a week.
Really soon later afterwards.
Yep. So, still very new. So, we'll tell you more about that, but just initial because we don't have a due date or anything like that
Granny
yet.
Nikki, Granny Yanni.
No.
I don't mind Granny.
I'm gonna be Mimi. I picked my name out.
That's right. You said that.
I picked this name out when they was little.
I'll take Granny.
Yeah, no. Because I'm going to be a glamour in every sense of the word. But that's my name. It's gonna be it's Mimi. Mimi. That's my name. I picked that a long time ago.
I'll take Granny Yanni.
You could be, but Gigi would be.
Or it could be Gigi Yanni. But we got Gigi. Speaking of, and I'm going to be real quick. It's almost time. I want to thank baby Gigi for introducing me to, forget it, y'all. See, you see why I'm going to go by Granny Yanni. What's the little cartoon with the little black girl singing? And they do the,
Gracie's Corner.
Gracie's Corner.
Gracie be turned.
Girl, why was I?
Oh, is it Gracie's Corner? It's Gracie's. I think it's Gracie. It's Grace or Gracie. But
not that anything has to do with color, but I'm gonna say it. White guy in a car. He parked his little daughter in the back, jamming in that Gracie's Corner. And he all like this nodding his head. I said, yeah, we all love Gracie's Corner.
Listen, they be turned, but they be having some educational messages.
Yeah.
But well, today I ain't gonna hold you. We was kind of all over the place, but I hope that you did get the message that we were trying to convey today. Because again, everything that we want to do is to help us be better as a community, because it takes a village, and it's all about the kids, and we have to do better to make sure that this next generation coming up, that they're solid. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. Yes, please do. And follow us on all of our social media. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Threads, we're on TikTok,
Instagram.
And we are the Uncoupled Couple on everything except TikTok. On TikTok, we are the real Uncoupled Couple. So please like and follow us on all our social media, and make sure on our YouTube you subscribe, you like, and you share this message, especially if you know somebody you think can really be helped by the message that we're putting out. Please, please, please share this with them. So I think that's it for now.
That's it for now. Remember to respect, to give boundaries, and to not put your kids in the middle of grown folks stuff. Just in the end, remember it's all about the babies. All about the kids.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace out.